Welcome everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Nawaz Bhatt. I am one of the organizer for Agile Brigade. And Agile Brigade, what is Agile Brigade? We are the first Durham's Agile community group. We started this year. So we've been having virtual meetups since our inception. So we haven't had the opportunity to actually meet any of you in person. So looking forward to that, hopefully sometime very soon. What else I was supposed to say? Yeah, Agile Brigade, you can find us on LinkedIn, on Meetup app. You can just look for the keyword Agile Brigade. You should be able to find us, follow us. We do have events every month. So there is one organized, one already scheduled for October. Today's topic is delivering innovative solutions effectively, lean startup lessons for enterprise citizens. And the speaker for today evening is Shaheen Shedai. Shaheen doesn't need, I believe, introduction for most of the Torontonians, whoever has touched upon any flavor of Agile in any ways, but for some of you who might not have had any interaction with Shaheen, a little about Shaheen. Actually, my first meeting with Shaheen was at Agile Lunch, formerly known as Agile Lunch and now known as Lean Agile Network. This is where I met him, and since then we've been like we somehow remain as we are part of the bigger Agile community in the city of Toronto. So we've been on and off talking and been connecting. Shaheen is a Agile Lean success coach, international speaker, as well as he's the founder of and the principal coach at Elevate Change. And if you take a notice, Elevate Change and MPAC, Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, are two of our sponsors. So big shout out to both of them, and Shine is there. So I really want to thank in person the support, all the logistics and everything he has extended to us. So thanks, Shine, for that. So I would probably let Shaheen maybe introduce himself more formally. Over to you, Shaheen.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Nawaz and the team for having me, and thanks for this opportunity to be part of this committee and speak to you guys. So let me share my screen.
You can see your screen, Shane.
Oh, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, good. Give me 2 seconds to properly design it so that I can be effectively talking to you guys. I'm going to the presenter view. Perfect. Okay, so as Nawaz mentioned, we are going to talk about some lean startup lessons for enterprise cities, as all of us are. Like most of us are working in a large organization. And the goal of this talk is about finding out some tools or techniques that we can use and share with each other and in our daily lives. Please, at any point, if you have any questions, stop me. If I see that the questions are going to take over the talk, I ask you to hang on to those questions, and we are going to address it at the end of the session. Just some logistics. This session is being recorded. If you have any concerns about that, let Nawaz or myself know, and we will take care of that for you guys. And a little bit of introduction of myself for those who don't know me. I'm Shaheen. I am the founder and principal coach in Elevate Change. And there our thought process or our philosophy is that change is the only constant, and whatever we do, we need to elevate that. If it's personal, if it's organizational, there's always change there, and we just need to be prepared to respond to that. If you're in Agile, we're responding to change or following the plan, that might talk to you a lot, especially these days. And we have a couple of offerings, if you are interested in becoming a better Agile coach, we have a program for that. We are not accredited at this point, but we are in the process of. As Nawaz said, I'm a big supporter of community as well. The community that he correctly named Agile Lunch was started with 3 people, if you don't believe that. And now it's over 2,000 people and running still. I started some different version of communities, Agile Games, if you have heard of that. I'm running a podcast, Lean on Agile, if you see in my background. If you find some time to listen to something, you can listen to that and let me know how do you like that. Enough about me. Before we start, I want you guys to use the chat, and we want this environment to be a learning environment for all of us. I want to just type in the chat what you need to see from yourself and others in this environment. I'll give you 30 seconds to 1 minute to think about it and type that. Is there anything that you want from others, or typically what would I suggest would be an openness, something that to share with each other. I have general, I see David put sharing general ideas is good. So he talks about the sharing. Anything else that you guys want to see? And again, this is for you guys. This is the more that we put into this and we build this, the more that you guys are going to get out of it. Helping each other grow from Arshad, and real stories from people about their experiences, which JF, we are going to get into some quick interactions and kind of a workshop, very quick workshop to do that. Okay, so enough about that. Let's get to the main content. So I want to start with this slide from for the average company lifespan on S&P 500 index. So if you can see in 1960, the average company lifespan was 60 years. And the more we go and we go and we go, the average life, like in 1980, it was around 35. So if you are one of the top performers, you only had around 35 years to be in the business. In 2020, and these are projections, in 2000, it was around 20 years. And it's going to go down, and the prediction is that this wave is going to be shortened and shortened. It talks about the fast pace and the complex and always changing world that we are in. And since 2000, over 52% of Fortune 500 companies are gone. Imagine, if you're part of Fortune 500, amazing, I'm there, but half of them are gone by now. To address these kind of challenges and address this solution to this, different people from different parts of the board and different areas of schools of thought come up together, and they come up with some solutions. Some called it Agile, some looked from different perspective, called it lean thinking, some look at it from a different perspective, call it design thinking, lean change management. We heard about Kanban. We heard about plan, do, check, act, or systems thinking, innovation coaching. Like from different parts of the, from wherever you are, like you would see some great ideas. And most of us that are here, I'm assuming that most of us are from Agile, so we know more about Agile, and we see the solutions around Agile. But these techniques are out there, and people are using it. And some even come together and put these things back to back of each other. So for example, Gartner put this slides together and for design thinking, lean startup and agile, which I really like to rely on design thinking for ideation, find out what the customer really wants, for a lean startup to try and some experiment, learn and pivot and find out what we need to build. And then when it comes to the building, we can go to the agile. And as you can see, this is not linear. You can go back and forth in all of these things. But the point of this slide that I want to make is that you want as much as possible to know different tools, different techniques. And what we are going to focus on is lean startup, which is going to be very hand to hand with agile in terms of building things and learning and pivot very fast and getting feedback very fast and iterate very shortly. So lean startup. Lean startup term has been coined by Eric, and we are going to see his picture and his book when he coined it. But the idea could have been out there, but you wouldn't be the person famous for having the idea, but the person that coined the term. So Eric Ries is the person that coined it, and the lean startup come into existence. So for today, we are going to see the introduction to lean startup, some stories and techniques applied in real life, and learn more in depth of some of these techniques, try to practice them and figure out how we can use them in our environment. And to be completely honest with you, I'm not an expert on lean startup. I'm a learner as well. So I'm learning with you guys. I have done it several times, but I might be able to answer some of the questions you have, some of them might not. So what is a lean startup? This is a definition of the lean startup by Eric Ries. So a methodology for developing business and product, which aims to shorten the product development with blah, blah, and with business hypothesis driven experimentation, iterative product releases, and validated learning. So if you think about the core, if you're coming from the agile mindset as well, you would see that, oh, we have these things in the agile. In agile, we're talking about iteration. We are talking about feedback loops. We are talking about experimentation. Like if you're coming from a Kanban mindset, validated learning is talking exactly to the feedback loop principle that they have. Experimentation talking about evolve evolutionary and improve collaboratively. So a simplified version of the lean startup is basically talking about, are we building the right thing? So we are always building the thing, and we are focusing to building the thing right. So have we put these feature here on the page that they've been asked us? Have we put the right color? Have we put the right button that has been asked us from the development perspective? But are we building the right thing? Is this the product that people truly want? Or is this the assumptions that we are building this product and they are going to come and use that? How can we get shorter feedback to be pivot or persevere? And how can we achieve faster learning? These are, if you answer these questions, you basically apply the essence of lean startup. There are more to lean startup that is about split testing, continuous deployment. We talk about pivoting, innovating accounting, and many more, which we are not going to touch Many of them we are going to touch MVP, and we are going to touch the build, um, um, experiment and learn cycle, build, measure, learn. So some of the concepts that we are going to see: innovation. So what is innovation? One person or two person, anyone wants to give it a try. What an innovation could be? What is the definition of that? Unmute yourself and jump in. You don't have any innovative people here? That's fine too.
I will take a crack at that. So
Okay.
in my mind, innovation would mean something like looking at your current process. Maybe it's an assessment of your existing process, and trying to figure out if there's a better way to do it. And when I say better way to do it, try to figure out what's taking time, who the if there are any impediments, try to speed it up. And when I say try to speed it up, not necessarily just to do things faster, but activities that are actually adding value to the end product. And try to eliminate waste in between. Anything that's not adding value, again, if it is determined that it is a waste, you try and eliminate that. So that is what I would consider to be innovation, not the entirety of it, but at least part of what I would think the definition of innovation would be.
Right. So I heard adding value. I heard efficiencies. I see that Moonway puts solving problems that has never been solved before. I see that Susmita in chat put using design thinking to solve a problem. And so all of you agree that I believe that it's revolving around the problem. So these are the definitions from the Lean Startup community. And the last one is exactly what Eric Ries defined it. The process of translating an idea into a product or a service that creates value for which customer will pay. So if you have a great idea, product or service that don't create value, or your customer doesn't pay for that, from their perspective, there is no innovation there. And I think I like to keep that, because if you are innovative and you can't make ends meet, right? So you will be out of the job, right? So let's talk about a startup. What is a startup? A startup is a human institution designed to create new products and services under condition of extreme uncertainty. When we are talking about a startup, it's about a small number of people, typically one or two that start at a startup. They are doing everything themselves. They are, and what is the rate that 60% or 70% of them even fail within the first 6 months? And they are focused on creating new products and services. Entrepreneurship. Who can give me a definition of entrepreneurship? It's easy. Anyone who works within a startup, that's an entrepreneur. So I can call myself entrepreneur. Susmita is saying that taking the lead. So let's put all these together. If I ask this group here, who is an innovative entrepreneur? Let's see if you guys satisfy this criteria. Who is entrepreneur? Is anyone that is working in a human institution designed to create new products and services under condition of extreme uncertainty. Like, I guess in the past 7 months, we experience condition of extreme uncertainty. Has there been anyone that didn't experience that? So based on this definition, all of us are working in a startup, and all of us are entrepreneur. And is there anyone here that is not solving real problems for the customer? That was a rhetorical.
One way or other, we are all part of the same boat, right? So
yeah,
we are all entrepreneur in a sense that when it comes to taking new experiences on board or taking risk, we are entrepreneur. Anybody who takes risk, create a venture out of it is an entrepreneur.
I lost you while you were talking. I tried to change my, but now I have you. Yeah, true, Arshad. Yeah, yeah. And all of us are innovative, aren't we? Because we are trying to solve customers, delivering value, and at the end of the day, they pay us for that. Directly or indirectly, somehow they are paying for the product and services that we are building. That, yeah, I like what Susmita said. If you're not solving problems, we're not adding value to the client. And I appreciate if you speak up next time. So with all that being said, we understand that we are innovative entrepreneurs. Let's come and look at the minimum viable product. Minimum viable product. Who has not heard about that term? With a raise of hand, or some of the reactions here in Zoom, you can, I guess it's becoming so famous or so overused that all of us have heard of that. But we are going to see what the exact definition is. So when Eric started the Lean Startup, it wasn't that much famous. So this is the definition of minimum viable product. And I read that and I put that quote by quote because I value each of the words. It's a version of a new product which allows a team to collect the maximum amount of learning about customers with the least effort. The goal of an MVP is to test fundamental hypotheses and to help begin the learning process as quickly as possible. So it's about learning maximum amount with the least amount of effort. Be honest with you guys, in the work that you are doing right now, or in the last work that you were doing, were you looking at the MVP like this? Or were you looking at the MVP and saying, oh, we are going to chop off some of the features so that we can get to production and we are going to call that MVP? So we are going to pivot a little bit, and I'm going to tell you some story. See what we can learn from the stories of the giants in our industry. And the first story that I'm going to share with you is the Lean Startup book written by Eric Ries. And this is Eric Ries behind the Lean Startup. And he coined the Lean Startup, the book itself, by writing a blog. So he didn't start by saying that I'm going to write a book. I'm going to sit and figure out what I have been done in the past 2, 3, 4 years, and I'm going to put in a book, and I hope that I'm going to sell that. He started a startup lessons learned. The blog is on the Blogspot. He didn't pay for any blog domain, anything like that. He started, and he saw that people are reading that, and people are interacting with it, and people are liking that. So he kept putting more information. And after that, he saw that people are liking it. He made it into the book. So even for himself, writing a blog post was an MVP. He was getting the most validated learning from the customer, which would be the book buyers, if you may think about that is the product, by writing a blog post and figure out, okay, so I have some audience, I'm going to write more, see where they're going to get me at, and then I figure out that, okay, so I can put the Lean Startup book on the shelves. If you look at the book as a product. Yeah, I like this. Ravi said MVP in my current workplace is what is required for the business to launch. Yeah, there's no talk about validated learning. There's no talk about least amount of effort. It's just what we are using this word for because it's famous and everyone's using it. We are going to use that and say, this is MVP, go figure that out. So let me tell you a story about another startup. And I'm going to make it interesting if you guys can guess this is startup or not. So the name of this startup is not that innovative. Like it is innovative. It's not that innovative. They put two words together and become the name of this startup. And the first product was a deal. 2 pizza for the price of 1 offer at a motel bar, which is a restaurant on the first floor of their own building. Can you guys guess what a startup is that is?
Two for one pizza?
No,
in numbers?
no. So the product was not the pizza. The product was a deal for that pizza.
So it's a marketing coupon book kind of place.
Yeah, you are getting close. Let me give you more information for that. They didn't even have a .com domain when they started. They were using a subdomain for a newspaper.
Groupon?
Yeah, who said that? Yeah.
Phil. It's Phil.
Yeah, Phil. Nice. So, and it became the biggest IPO for an internet company. And after they become successful, they paid $250K for the domain the next year. And it was Groupon, thepoint.com first. And this was their MVP. They would sell T-shirts on the first version of Groupon on the site, and they would sell it like this. The T-shirt will come in the color red, size large. If you want a different color or size, email that to us. There was no guarantee that they are going to get you the size medium or they give you the size blue for the large, but they are selling this color red, size large, and they were getting more information and they were validating the learning. Like, are people emailing us about the blue color, or are they more sending us email about the medium? So they didn't put in much effort into building, let's just build a drop down so that people can select the sizes. Let's focus on how many people, how many we predict medium sizes are more, like large sizes are less than maybe a small. So we need to prepare the order, like prepare the manufacturing. But it was about, we are going to put this there. We are going to learn as much as we possibly can. And this would be our MVP. And we don't build a chat bot for them to come and talk to us. Like, just email us, right? And there is no SLA on answering your emails. Like, there is no guarantee that we are going to answer you. Just email us, we are going to get more learning. So we want to focus now that we talk about MVP. What could be your MVP? Based on this definition, version of a new product, which allows a team to collect the maximum amount of learning about customers with the least effort. Think about the product or a service that you're working on currently. I'm assuming that you have a customer for that, or internal or external customer for that. And think about that and think about how you can make that an MVP. I'm going to give you guys 1 minute, silently think about that and use this as a guideline. So put a product name here on a piece of pen and paper. What learning, start from here. What learning do you want to have? And what is the effort that you're putting in? Is there any other way that you can do that? And after thinking about these two, think about what is the fundamental hypothesis do you have about your product, about your customer. So I give you 1 minute to put these things in writing. 10 seconds. And we are doing an MVP on MVP. I'm not giving you long time to think about it. Okay, so I'm going to give you two options. Typically when I'm doing this, I put people in breakout rooms or in groups of people, and they share with each other what product, and they are going to question like, or ask each other like, is this a maximum amount of learning? Can you make the effort less? One option would be to do breakout rooms. The other option would be to have a brave 1 or 2 person to bring the product and present it to all of us. And then we can ask them, how can you maximize the learning, or how can you minimize the effort of putting this product out? So if we have 1 or 2 person that are willing to share with everyone, let us know. If not, we are going to go into breakout rooms and then come back.
You want me to share one?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Who is that?
It's Phil.
Phil.
Yes. So we build a SaaS app that do analytic of a poultry barn. So we want to know if our customer would like to have a streaming video of their barns live on our website. So to learn, we were thinking to ask customer first, and after that, minimum effort will be to make a small Figma demo. So we use a figmaplatform.com to make some quick, just grab image from Google and put the screaming camera we can see there from poultry barn.
Okay. So I'm going to start from the learning piece. So how could you maximum your learning? Because talking to the customer is not an easy, like it has lots of logistics, right? Is there any way that you can do the learning with less effort?
For us, we have a lot of customer easy to access, so we can just grab the phone and call them. So for us, it's kind of easy because some of them are actually some investor in the company. So it's kind of easy. But if you have a better way, I will be happy to learn from you.
No, so that's the cool part about me. I'm just asking the question. You do the hard part, right? Okay. So if you have access to the customers, which is amazing, that's perfect, right? So, and you said you are going to use a Filmio or something like that, a website,
it's
or a tool
Figma.
that. Okay.
It's a web platform that you can do kind of prototype UI. So you do very quickly on that. Some people know Balsamiq too, that can be used, but we use Figma.
Right. Is there any easier way to do that?
Maybe we can start with just pen and paper. Will be maybe a lot less effort.
Right.
Less accurate, but more faster.
Right. And I love that. And what is a hypothesis? You mentioned that, but what is a hypothesis in 1 or 2 sentences that you can put together?
Grower want to see video streaming of their barns.
Okay. Thank you, Phil.
You're welcome.
Yeah. How was it for you guys that were observing? I didn't know the context, and Phil was describing their MVP. And how would you guys think that you can use this tool next day when you're talking with your product side or the business side? Any observations that you had?
Phil said it is a SaaS application that he was building with the solution that's available freely to create quick UIs. Is that correct, Phil?
Yeah. It's a Figma.
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 Okay, this is excellent because this tool can be used by by many people.
Yep.
And if it comes to developing something real quickly, when you're showing your client any user interface, even the user experience can be created in it if it comes to it. It's kind of wireframe, if I'm not wrong. You can create that, and if you want it to have it functional, you just need some connectivity to your database and your available systems that you have services associated with it. And you can show real quickly to your client, and just like I said, in a wireframe setup, what their solution may look like for them. Thus, I think it's a quick learning experience in it, because you get the feedback in the shortest amount of time. You see how exactly client like what he sees or she sees, and based on that, we can, pivot or persevere.
So Arshad was presenting a solution, right? But with what he had in mind, with the maximum amount of learning, with the least amount of effort needed, right? He was giving Phil another option to have. What I want you guys to take away is that when you are working on an MVP or someone's seeing that work on MVP, ask yourself always, is there any way to maximize my learning? Is there any way to minimize my effort? So Phil's situation was different, that you had access to the customer right away. It was easy for them. Typically, if you don't have access to customers, a solution might be to put something on like social media and see what people react. Okay, so the next one that we are going to learn is the build, measure, learn, which this is my go-to tool most of the time. I'm sharing my secrets with you guys. I hope I don't mind. So the build, measure, learn loop emphasizes speed as a critical ingredient to product development through feedback loop. So we build some experiment, we measure them, and we learn from it. And based on the learning, we pivot or persevere. Let me tell you another story about another startup. Let's see who can see what a startup this is. This story is from a lazy student like me, which was very more smart than me, that forgot the USB key. Do you guys remember those days that we had USB keys and everything was on the USB key, that if you lose them, you lose them? So, and one time he forgot to bring it with him from the dorm to the college or to the school that he was going to. And he had this idea to start a company based on that. And it was basically a file sharing company. And at that time, like, who wants another file sharing company? There were companies that were providing this file sharing, but it wasn't that user-friendly, if I may say that. They didn't have any product out yet. They didn't have any working proof or concept of it, like proof of concept, like POCs, right? You see many organizations invest into that. Him and his friend put 3-minute screencast on Hacker News. And the Hacker News is something like the geeky version of Reddit or the geeky version of a news site. And they have tons of feedback and tons of feedback. And this was their MVP. So even without having the product out there, they said they created this screencast and they put it on Hacker News and they got so many feedback. Oh, I revealed it. And so this was the story of Dropbox. And Dropbox, by doing that, moved from 100K to many million users in 18 months. They didn't rely on a PR company or like doing advertisement. They just used the media that they had. Like they put different features out there. Even they have not built it, put it in Hacker News, put it in Dig, put it in Reddit, and they see the feedback that they're receiving. And then based on that, they were trying to pivot or persevere. At the time of the IPO, like they had PR firm that's doing the marketing. They were going organically. They didn't need the PR firm, but anyway, they had them. And they had a 200 to 300 acquisition cost per user, which was great at that time. Oh, Jeff mentioned it was Dropbox. Yes, sorry, Jeff, to ruin that. I didn't look at the chat. So it's easy to talk about the build, measure, learn, right? But how we go about build, measure, learn? How do we do that? Let me see if I need to share my sound, share computer sound for the next next slide. I did that. So I'm going to show you a talk which is from Tom Kelly. He's the founder of IDEO. His firm is amazing when it comes to design thinking. And his talk is about treat life as an experiment. So it's only 4 minutes long. Let's hear that and we come back.
The second one is called treat life as an experiment. And this is partly about risk. This is partly about actually being willing to fail. Because experiments, as I said earlier, they're not all successes. That's why they call them experiments, right? And so if you treat life an experiment, you got to be prepared for some stuff not to work out. You know, I'm an author, and I take this approach with books too, because you go to a bookstore and you look at the books. You know, the average book is like 300 pages long. That can be intimidating. If if mom raised you that once you start something, you got to finish it, then a 300-page book, there's some big risk in cracking it open, right? Whereas if you treat that as an experiment and say, look, I'm just going to read the first 10 pages and then see how I feel, and if that's good, I'm going to continue, right? Then a book is not so scary. Then next thing you know, you read 10, 20, and 30, and if it's a good book, you get all the way through it, right? But what got you into it in the first place is you were willing to treat it as an experiment. Because if you go whole hog, if you got to do the whole thing, that scares people away. And so you can go through your whole life with this method of, it's like, look, I'm going to try this. I can put up with anything for a day. I can, I'm going to see how this works. And so you get in the habit of, you're failing, but ideally you're failing forward. You're failing in a way that has a little bit of learning attached to each one. And historically, the most famous guy in this experimenter category here in the US is this guy, right? Thomas Edison, right? And do we tend to think of Thomas Edison as a success? Right? I think we do. I think he's the most prolific inventor in the history of America. He made, light bulbs, of course, we all know, phonographs. He had a whole long list of things, including tattoo pens. In fact, I think we're still using Edison's design today in the tattoo pen department. He also left us General Electric, which is going pretty strong still after all these years, 120 years or whatever it is. But Edison, we think of him as success. No, he was piling up all kinds of failures. He wouldn't use that word. At one point in his life, he said, well, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that do not work. He was trying to come up with the filament for an electric light bulb. 10,000 things he tried. Think how frustrating that must have been. Well, he stuck with it, and it worked out pretty well in the end. So he treated life as an experiment. He had this great group, this great team around him, and they were doing multiple experiments every day until they came up with a success. And the fact that one of them failed, no big deal. I got 9,000 other failures out there, right? And so Edison, way long time ago, so some people, especially people the age of some of the people in the room, think, oh, that's a 19th century example. Don't talk to me about that. Here's 2 examples from the 20th century that have spilled over into the 21st century. WD-40. Anybody have any WD-40 at home? Right? I suppose it's not that convenient in dorm rooms, but trust me, almost every house in America's got WD-40. I spoke in Brazil recently, and they all had WD-40 in their houses. Ever think about the name? I didn't. Right? WD. That's obvious because it's an oil, right? So it does water displacement. right? Catchy, name only an engineer could love. Anyhow, WD, but the 40 is what I want to talk about. 40 is because the first 39 formulas failed. They stuck with it through 39 failures. They got to formula number 40, and they did darn good with that one, right? This is a consumer product unchanged for about 50 years. You never get a chance to do that, but WD-40 did. And then that is nothing compared to this guy, James Dyson. Anybody ever seen his cyclonic vacuums? They reportedly work pretty well. Anyhow, lots of people. Okay. Anyhow, James Dyson, if you read his book, Jim Dyson says he had 5,128 failures, 5,128 prototypes before he had something he could sell. Man, that must have taken a long time, right? But he did pretty well in the end. You know, he's one of the richest guys in the UK because his products ended up being such a tremendous success. But 5,128 failures along the way. I got two questions. I ever meet Jim Dyson, I'm asking him two things. The first thing is, why'd you keep track? Right? Once I get over 1,000 failures, I would just say lots, you know, lots. I don't need to know that when I'm into 5,000 failures, just a lot of failures, right? But way more important than that, which relates to my comment earlier, is, was he married at the time? Right, because that is one patient spouse. I can just see her saying, Jim, get out of the garage and get a job, right? But he didn't, and he stuck with it. He had lots of failures. He was willing to tolerate lots of failures, and it worked out pretty well for him in the end.
So yeah, his talk called Treat Life an Experiment. But what I want you guys to take away from it is that he was talking about risk. So sometimes using experiment in some of the environments that we are in is not acceptable. So instead of using that, use risk. How can we de-risk what we are doing? How can we pay less amount of investment to learn more? And go from there. So for using the build, measure, learn loop, for finding out what to build, what to measure, and what to learn, we are going to do this in reverse order. We are going to think about what assumptions do we have about that product or service that we are building. And for that, we are going to figure out what experiments we want to test or a prototype. And then based on that, we are going to see what metrics do we want to have there to validate. And then we are going to do this loop on and on and on and on and on. It doesn't have, so we are going to think backward. We are going to, instead of thinking build, measure, and what we learn, we are going to think, okay, so what are the assumptions? What are the things that we want to get answers? And what are the experiments that we are going to build? So for the product that we talked about, I want Phil, I hope Phil is still with us. I'm hoping so. Are you here? Yes, he is. So I want to think about the experiments, one or two, and you guys can all think about it, but he might come up with a better experiment because he knows the exact context. So what assumptions do we have to test? So what do we want to learn for the product or for your product? You can use your own product if you want to take a crack at it. And so for this assumption, then think about what metric do you need? Like, do you need, for example, number of times that people watch that video? Or do you need the seconds that people watch before they leave that video? Or do you have a link below that video that you want them to click? What is it that you want to, what is the metric that you want them, you need them to measure? And then what do you need to build based on that? So as following the lean startup, these two is the simplest way of thinking about it. And I want one brave person to go through this with me. If no one volunteers, I would volunteer Phil, but let's see. So anyone else other than Phil that wants to go through this exercise with me so that everyone can learn and themselves can learn too. I guess, Phil, it's me and you.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So first thing, want to learn if they want to pay for that. So probably
Okay.
how much they want to pay for it. So
Okay.
is it $5 a month, $10 a month? Not sure. Maybe more.
Right. So wait. Do you want to learn that they want to pay for that or not, or the amount that they want to pay?
Both.
Okay. So
Yeah.
but which one is like? I guess. Okay. So what's the minimum that you want them to pay for it?
I will have to determine the cost of it. So I will need to know what kind of hardware will be needed to be purchased. So if the camera is $10,000, maybe I will have to charge them $100 a month. But if it's a cheap camera and the resolution is low, maybe it's going to be $5 a month.
Okay.
So I need to figure out probably the resolution of the camera and the cost. Yeah.
So in real life, we would sit next to each other and we would Google and say like, this is the camera, like in like 2 minutes, like this is how much the cost is, and this is the minimum. But let's say for now, you say it's $5, right? So you want to learn if they're willing to pay $5, right?
Yep, maybe.
So what metrics do you need? So is it $5 per like number of people, or only one people that pays that would suffice you?
I think I will need a lot of customers that want that technology in their barns. So I would like that a couple of customers, maybe the number of customers I call, how many they are willing to pay that much of money.
Right. Okay. So the reason that I'm asking you, because the thing that we want to build, there needs to keep track of number of people that click that, right? If it was only one customer, like there was just one button, someone clicked it, it was done, right? So we need some kind of a counter there. So what do we need to build? I guess based on what I learned is a page that has a video of a barn, right? And beneath that would be a payment option, right? And for this payment option, you don't need to build it to go through PayPal or a credit card to actually pay you. You just need to make sure that when a person clicked it, you have a counter that says one person clicked it and reach your, for example, 20 limit or threshold that you have, right?
So quickly, I have just put a like streaming camera button on the website, and I count the number of click on it. So I will know how many of my actual customer want that.
Yeah.
Okay. And after that, if you want the upgrade, here it's $5, click on it, or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and if it was a real, like it's a real, but it was like a startup idea, you could just jump on like GoDaddy or Google website or something like that and create it tonight, like your MVP, right? Yeah. It could be out there like soon. So thank you, Phil, for being part of this experience. Anyone else has something to share with Phil? Maybe we provoke some ideas for you guys to share with Phil. That's good enough too. So with all that being said, I want to thank you guys for being part of this talk. I didn't look at this talk. I hope that you looked at it as more like a conversation that we had with each other. And I hope you take away something from this. Again, lean your startup, there are plenty of these things to learn about it, but the build, measure, learn, and MVP are the two major ones that I wanted to focus on and talk to you about. I appreciate if you share your thoughts or your feedback with me or with Nawaz or any of the community organizers. I appreciate that. And with that, all that being said, I am passing it back to Nawaz. Thank you all.
Thank you, Shane.
Thanks, Shane. This was really a fantastic presentation.